FORA.tv. The world is thinking.
It is arrogant to be pessimistic in the face of a 13.7 billion year trend.
13.7 billion. Whoa, really deep history.
Right. Basically, since the Big Bang, have things been getting worse or getting better? Maybe it's an anthropic view, but the view is pretty much that the trend is...
I don't think the universe is really in particularly great shape.
It's not.
But we can delude ourselves that...
Oh, no, you're missing biology. Biology is the great invention of the universe in a self-organizing way. I mean, this...
But there are fewer species. Most of them are tiny microbes that don't shit whatever it was that was supposed
diesel
to
fuel.
Diesel. So much for evolution. Why can't you produce diesel all by yourselves?
They did once, and
I mean, I think the time frame here is crucial. We haven't talked about this, but if you think about human history, you mustn't think about it as some 4,000, the civilization story of 4,000 years of continuous advance. It's not. There's 100 years of spectacular advance, and prior to that is basically Malthus. Most of human history involves people engaged in subsistence agriculture. Most of organized, civilized, recorded human history is people engaged in subsistence agriculture being exploited by tiny elites. It's only with the Industrial Revolution that the possibility exists through technology,
I was going to say, through technology, right?
But
my case is made.
I got my butt in, but, please, technology allied with major and inexplicable gains in labor productivity that may or may not have nutritional... read Greg Clark's book. Have you read The Farewell to Arms? There isn't really a very obvious explanation for why it was that the Industrial Revolution saw massive gains in labor productivity in a few countries, beginning with Britain. You can't actually explain it in terms purely of technology. That's one of the things that he shows very clearly. And then, from that point on, there's a sort of exponential growth, which is essentially the history of the last 150 years. And that gradually improves the lot of the average human being until you're left with Collier's bottom billion. That's really the way in which we should think about the historical process. The biggest historical question, which I don't think Greg answers, is why did the human condition suddenly change when most of recorded history was really a rather miserable affair?
Well, and if you look at the numbers in terms of, particularly for the US, Europe, and Japan, post-World War II, the rate of growth of per capita income exploded relative to history. And I would attribute that not only to new technology, but the scale of organization in terms of the efficiency of networks, of production, and so on. All of those things experienced unbelievable progress over the last 50 years as compared to even the previous 50 or the 150 before that. So, we're on an accelerating trend, not a decelerating trend.
But you assume, Peter, and here is our profound difference, that trend can be projected forward. Whereas it seems to me this phenomenon that we're describing is just an historical anomaly. And it would be really very surprising if it were continued. In fact, it's almost certainly not sustainable over the next 150 years. So that's the big difference between us, I think.
Okay, so here's a history perspective. Have there been past technological Kurzweil, Moore's Law type curves that accelerated and then broke? Or were they just part of what you might call the very long early part of this slow asymmetric, now accelerating asymmetric curve?
Take human nutrition. So for most of human history, men and women were malnourished. You can see that by the size of their skeletons that survive. They really were rather short, and their lives were pretty brief. They didn't take long, really, to be taken out by a disease if you were as poorly fed as the average person throughout most of recorded history. And then there was a great breakthrough. It wasn't a particularly happy story, I have to tell you, because the great breakthrough involved enslaving millions of Africans and getting them to produce sugar for the consumption of people in Western Europe. Sugar is a great source of energy. If you want to understand the Industrial Revolution, part of the story is that for the first time there are people in the world who are properly getting the calories that they need, and those people are in Britain. And at this point, you start to see a shift in the direction of proper nutrition, and people start to get better and better fed. And by the mid-20th century, you have human beings getting a really good diet. But then you tip over into the obese era, because this thing can't be sustained. What happens, in fact, is that the habits of the industrial era, let's eat some sugar, let's have more sugar. That's pretty good. Let's put some corn oil and sugar and have that too. You reach a point of diminishing returns, and you only have to, take a walk through, I don't know, Atlanta Airport to see.
How diplomatic. Not San Francisco Airport.
Progress is not like that in the realm of human nutrition, which is the central, most important driver in many ways in the Industrial Revolution story. There comes a point when you just can't actually get any bigger as a human being. You've reached the point in the Monty Python Life of Brian when you're about to explode. Not Life of Brian, Meaning of Life. Thank you, jet lag.